we'll go ahead and get started. And then as people join in, Amy's going to monitor that and add them on. So if you can see us on a full screen, we're good. And if you guys can mute your audio for the time being, what we'll do is have a question and answer portion at the end. But this is a first run for us, so we are really excited that you guys are wanting to have this opportunity for a virtual training. And we're honored to be here with ourselves, Command Light, and Fides Novus, which is up in the Canada area. And so we wanted to go over a few topics today in our agenda. We're going to talk about the two most common issues for tower malfunctions, older controllers and holsters, and how we can get you familiar with the new style compared to the other versions of controllers that we've had up to this point. The next tower malfunction that we will be talking about is power loss of voltage, and how to identify these issues. And then we're going to be going into manually raising and lower a tower if you're not able to get that down on scene with your controller or through a VMUX system that's installed on the truck. And then we're going to talk a little bit about quartz halogen to LED upgrades. So my name's Aaron Ford. I'm the Western Regional Sales Manager for Command Light. I cover the 17 Western states in the States and half of Canada, so from Manitoba west. And then we have Dana Schaefer, which would cover the eastern part of Canada, and he covers the northeast for us from Command Light. And then what we have, Kevin here is our assembly manager and also technical assistants. And then towards the end, we'll introduce a few other guys involved in our team here to take care of service needs and technical questions if we're unable to take care of you. But we're going to go through some videos today. We thought it was going to be a little bit easier to do that rather than do it, as we're talking. So we filmed a series of videos. So we have about a half an hour worth of videos broken up, and then we'll come back and go back between screens. So question and answers, like I said, will be at the end. So save those questions till the end, and we'll start getting into it here. Kevin, you're up.
Can you guys hear me okay? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good deal. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you taking your time today. I missed going to the Gravenhurst this year because of the COVID, and I'll probably end up missing a few more that I definitely like to get up there and get your feedback. The biggest thing I lose out of not being able to go up there and train you guys is I probably learn as much or more from you as you will from me. You guys are the ones that deal with the towers every day out in the field. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time to participate in this, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. So the top two calls that we get on having a tower that's having some issues, number one, especially on a new tower, is controllers or control functions. And we have basically three different versions of controllers out in the field right now. We are on currently on our version 3 controller out there. We are definitely taking feedback from in the field, what everybody's telling us, trying to incorporate all of those things into our new designs, and we come out with one. So we'll start off with the first one, which would be a version 1 controller. This is actually for a shadow model. It was all toggle switches, very simple, very easy to troubleshoot. You could replace the switches. The downside on these was the switches stuck out. You guys all know how wonderful they are about putting stuff gently back into compartments. I've actually seen controllers with face guards welded in front of them because they would throw shoring material or something and bust the switches off. Another downside to the version 1, or that people did not like, On the version 1 in holster boxes, the emergency stop, auto park and emergency stop buttons were located on the holster box. So basically you would go up, press the button, get back, watch the tower. If something or for some reason you needed to shut it down, you'd have to run back up to that truck and push that stop button. So when we came out with the version 2, we eliminated most of the toggle switches. We still could not find anything that really worked well for the motion of the actuators and rotation. But all of the lights, everything, we went to a push button. Didn't stick out as far, didn't take as much chance. We also switched the auto park and emergency stop buttons on the hand controller. So if you were in an auto park sequence, you saw it was going to hit a power line, a tree branch, somebody up on the top of the truck, whatever, you can stop it fairly quickly that way. We did swap. Originally on the version 1s, there was the elevated, which is the green or the red light, the centered light, which was the green one. Those in turn moved down to the holster box. It's almost a little bit better. They were kind of hard to see if the lighting was pretty bright. Back into a compartment, it's a little easier to see the status of those. I use those 2 lights a lot. Then we go into the version 3 controller and holster, which is we got here. We've got one of our slim night lights up here. Version 3. Another thing that we also have had, sorry, I skipped a little bit there. On the version 2, and this was primarily due to the coming out of the DC LEDs. DC lights were not very popular just because they weren't that bright. LEDs changed all that for us. We were worried that anytime the truck was running, basically a DC tower was energized. So we incorporated what was known as a dead man switch in here. So every time you would put your controller back into there, it would press that switch, and you would have 1 pulse, and then that controller was for all functionality dead until you took it back out. We had a lot of trouble with those buttons sticking. So today, what we're doing is we're either bypassing those if it's an AC tower, or we'll convert them over to a toggle switch and an LED indicator. When we went to the version 3, instead of doing that, we went to an all flat surface on our controllers. We eliminated the dead man. This controller will time out on its own. To reactivate, you simply press right and left at the same time, and that will power your controller up. It'll stay energized for roughly 3 minutes of no action, and then it will automatically time itself out. Okay, we're going to go into a video on how to, all of the controllers are convertible from the very first version. They're all retrofittable up to the version 3 holster controller. They all have the same wires in there. It's just a little bit different of a hookup. So if this is something that seems more appropriate for you or whatever, they can definitely be retrofitted to the version 3. We're going to show you a quick video of how to retrofit one of these version 1s or version 2s into a version 3, or to hook up a brand new tower. Anyway, we'll show you this quick video, and then we'll come back with power.
Today I'm going to be showing you how to install our new version 3 circuit board, holster, and controller. The tools you're going to need for the job are a 7/16 wrench, some side cutters, some strippers of some sort, either a utility knife or cable strippers, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, and one of our small command light flat blade screwdrivers. You'll find that the instructions and wiring schematics are inside the manual, which can be found in the canister on the side of the light, as well as there are instructions and schematics in a secondary location in your install kit with your cable and controller when you receive it. So the first thing you're going to do is remove your controller. And remove the front plate of the holster box. Take out the screws on the front plate. There is a back mounting bracket on the back of these new holsters. You'll remove the screws out of that. There's nuts on the inside. They're not tightened down, they're just loose in there. And then that bracket will come off. The bracket is what's actually going to mount to the truck. You'll get hardware in your install kit to mount that to the truck, and then you'll use the hardware you took out of the holster box to mount the holster box into the bracket. The next step is wiring the holster. You're going to strip back the jacket on your control cable using that utility knife or some cable strippers. You want your wires to be about as long as the holster box. Little extra is always good. I'm going to make sure you cut out any strain relief that's inside the cable. You'll route the cable through the seal con in the top of the holster box. Make sure some of the jacket gets all the way through the seal con, and then make sure that seal con gets tightened down. Use your wiring schematic at this point. You've got 20 wires here. Not all of them are going to get used. The wires that you don't use, which you'll see on the schematic, need to be capped off. We'll send some little pieces of heat shrink that you can heat down on the ends of these. They will be 12-volt positive wires, so we don't want them arcing on anything in here and causing a short, so make sure to cap those off. Inside the holster box here, we have the small connectors that just plug into the circuit board. You want to strip your wire back about 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch, and then fold that over. Make sure we're getting a good connection inside our connector. We'll put the wire inside the slot of the connector. Use the small command light screwdriver and tighten down the screw on the side of the connector. Once you've got all your wires into the connectors, you can then plug them in to the ports on the circuit board. So once you get all your wires into the connectors, just make sure that all the connectors are firmly pushed into the ports. Be aware that all the connectors in here are different sizes, but they will fit in any of the ports. So watch out for that. If you're hooking up an elevated warning indicator, you will have to run truck power to this board. You'll use the small incoming power connector at the bottom to run your truck 12-volt and ground. You'll use the 3-pin connector up at the top for your signal coming in, which can be a 12-volt positive or ground, and your signal going out to your elevated warning indicator. Once you get your holster all wired in, you've got these 2 indicator lights down here, a power and an error light. If you have a green flashing power light, that means everything is hooked up correctly. If you're getting a red flashing light, that means that the controller and the holster board are not connected together. So you need to check your connection points between the holster board and the controller. When you're checking these connection points, you want to check at the controller, at the holster box, and then also the connections inside the holster box. They're all Ethernet cable connections. When you're putting this connector on in the holster and the controller, just make sure the small plastic tab is inserted into the connector just slightly before putting it back into the holster connection point. If you don't do that, you're connector will break that small plastic tab off. Once you're done wiring your holster, go ahead and screw the cover plate back on. Pop your controller back.
A couple of things. That video, as we're always looking to improve them, we did make a few modifications on the circuit board since that video had been shot. Now all of the different connectors are different colors. Therefore, you don't have to make sure that, you know, a 3-pin with these wires go into a certain port and different wire colors. We've also were able to put a couple of holes that were directly where the mounting holes on the original holster boxes were, or the earlier versions. You can go ahead and now just mount that where you don't need to mount that additional clip plate in there. So again, we are looking to make these as directly retrofittable as possible. Now we'll go on to the power issues. The main thing you can do if you've got a tower that is inoperable, a couple of real quick checks. Anytime a light tower is powered up, you will be getting your green center light. Even on a DC tower without the generator, that will light up. We keep that sensor energized via the truck 12-volt power that we're bringing in. Another good indicator for that is on the command light and the shadow models. They incorporate what we call a Turk sensor. That's the second screen on your right. Those have powered sensors on them. They have 2 little indicator LEDs on them. The green one indicates that that sensor is getting power. When metal comes within proximity of that little contact or the yellow dot in the middle, you will get a yellow activated indicator light. So anytime green basically means good. That means that we are getting power into the tower. It's coming back down to our holster controller or out to our sensors. If you're not getting those green lights, the best thing to go to is directly to the source. I always like to eliminate a generator or a truck issue. So on the far left there, what you're seeing is basically our small junction box that's on the outside of the rail of the command light. The small white strip is where you would hook all of those other ends of those control cable wires up. Those match color for color all the way down. Command lights and nights, we do put all of the wires in, and some of them may not have a function, but we put a place for them to go to. The bigger, large wires there are your incoming AC power. That's where I would check first. The one picture there is hooked up 240, so we've got the black and red legs, which are hot, 110 volt AC. The white is the neutral, and then the green is the ground. So with your voltmeter set on AC, going between black and white or red and white, you should have 110, 115, 120 volts somewhere in there. And then between the black and red, you should be getting 220 to 240 volts. Also, on our AC towers, if you open up the main electrical box, what you'll see in there is the second picture. That is our transformer. All of our relays, actuators, rotation motors, everything are 12-volt DC. They are powered. We basically step the AC power down, produce DC power to run all of those things. Right next to the transformer, which is the bigger black portion, there's the circuit board in there. On that circuit board is a green LED. That is showing that the transformer is getting in the incoming AC. It is also at that point converting that to 12-volt AC. It goes through a bridge rectifier at that point and converts to 12-volt AC to 12-volt DC. To measure those, you would go out to the outgoing orange and green wire with your voltmeter set on DC. We actually boosted up a little bit because of the initial draw of 2 actuators on the transformer. So you should be reading probably anywhere from 15 to 17 volts on that. So don't be alarmed if that's a little bit high. On the DC towers, what you need to go to is coming in, you will see a large black and a large red. The red will be going to a resettable breaker in there. Check both sides of that breaker using the green as your negative, the oranges as your positive, or the red and the orange as your positive. And that's where you would check that. Also make sure that this is a manual resettable breaker, that breaker is not tripped. Another thing you can do, and these are the, we have 3 wires in our control cable that are always 12-volt positives. The black, white, the black, red, or the black, red, and the red with the black stripe should always have 12-volt positive. These actually went to the original, the dead man switch too. So if you go in there using a chassis ground or the solid green wire and your voltmeter set on DC, you will be able to check any of those 3.
We're going to do a technical difficulty check. We want to make sure you guys are seeing your PowerPoint slides. We have a test screen over here and we're seeing slides. Can you indicate, just let us know if you're not seeing a slide?
I'm seeing the slides.
Yeah, they're good.
So everyone's seeing PowerPoint slides? Okay, great. That's all we wanted to make sure that you're seeing those slides. Great. Okay.
Okay, so if we find out that it actually is that the transformer or the truck power, the generator or the truck power is gone to the tower, you'll need to get it back to work on that. So all of our towers are capable of manually being lowered. We have all kinds of videos that we've been shooting here, populating our website over to the right. You guys feel free to go scroll through there and just look at anything. If there's something that you would like to see a video on, shoot us a quick email or give us a call, whatever. We will definitely get you a video shot of it. So to manually lower them, all of our towers come equipped with the tools. Some of the older ones, the installers were notorious for taking the tools and adding them to their toolboxes. But if you don't have the tools on there, I would do a check and let us know, and we will tell you the appropriate tool to get the various generations of actuators manually lowered. We'll be going to a video on that now, and showing you how to manually lower one of the night lights, which is a model that is just a different lamp configuration.
Amy, it's Anthony. There's no volume.
2 Allen wrenches. Just one's at 90 degrees, the other one's onto a socket, and that's how you will manually lower the actuators. Basically, what you'll do is on this actuator, there's a little cover screw here. You'll go ahead and remove that. That will allow you to get deeper access with the Allen head one. You can do it with a ratchet. I do recommend to have a set of extensions on there. It makes it way easier. So with this one here, you'll just go ahead and go in and you will actually feel it drop into its position. And it will bring this down. If you really want to save yourself a lot of grief, if you have some type of electric drill or something that has the capability of hooking to the socket, turns an hour job into a 5-minute job. The same would be with the upper actuator. Again, you would just go ahead and remove the separate outer cover screw. And then a little deeper, you will get to that one there. This one gets a little tight at the end. To do this in the proper sequence, you would go ahead, bring this down first, and then bring this down last. Also, if you would lose power, what you'll also want to do is rotate the backlights back to their home position. The whole trick to this is slow, gentle pressure. And then very slow pressure, you can manually bring this around to center. You can kind of line it up where you'll be able to see that this will actually come down. Just do the same process until this is completely down and nested. You may get a little bit of a bounce on your elevated warning, a little bit of flashing, but you'll be safe enough to travel One last thing I always like to point out, please put these back in. These are very, very good actuators, both the bears and the line axe. If they do have one weak point, is if they get water in there. So please always remember to put that back in, snug it down nice and tight, and then your actuator will last you many, many years. And I would personally like to thank you for purchasing Command Light.
Along with our towers, we also build a variety of traffic control devices. We call them our TFBs, or traffic flow boards. We have 4 basic versions of them. The 7s have the larger Wanko boards on them. The 5 series has our built arrow board on it. The horizontals, the H5 and the H7, work basically on the same principle or base as the nightlight tower is. So to manually bring those down, again, you would just gently rotate those so your board is flat or horizontal, and then go ahead and manually lower them with the actuator. The verticals are a little bit different. They are actually by a lift spool and a belt, raises the carriage up, gets it up out of it. The best way to describe it's like a piece of toast in a toaster. Once it clears the outer case, then it will rotate. If you would lose power or sensors or something on the flow boards, there is one thing that a lot of people aren't aware. Some of the earlier ones don't have this. If yours does it, you could go out and test that. If you don't, we can send you an upgrade chip to add that. But what we did is we put a fail-safe way. So on the hand controller for the vertical boards, what you would do is press emergency stop and down, holding those in. After 3 seconds, regardless of what the sensors are reading, that thing is going to come down. So you'd want to rotate it around so it lines up with the slot, hit those for 3 seconds, and then it will come down. If you don't have power to that, of course, this won't work. It doesn't override. What you would do then is manually just remove the board. They have a quick connector right up there by the board. We will be shooting videos of that. We've actually got both of the boards down on the shop floor now. We're gonna go and shoot that. The one thing that we were hearing from people is the fireman would whip out the old Leatherman and cut the strap, letting the board free fall down into the case. That you definitely don't want them doing. The weight of the carriage and the board coming down in a free fall will at least destroy one sensor, and it could damage other electrical components in there. So we will get those videos shot, but it should be in the user guides that you received originally with the boards on how to manually remove the boards. That basically brings them down to the level of the case, and then they can get back and we can figure out what's going on, or you can get your truck powered back up.
So next topic that we have here is taking a quartz halogen bulb, an older version of the lights, and upgrading them to LED. We have, can you hear me? Everyone can hear me? So we have the ability to retrofit those older lights to LEDs, whether you pick Wayland, FRC, or a brand called Helios that is exclusive to Command Light now. What we will need is the model number and serial number of that specific tower that you want to upgrade from quartz to LED. We can save about 50% of the cost in the upgrade in the Helio versions, and each light head, depending on what you want, there's multiple difference in lumen output that would vary in price. So we can discuss those options once we have the model number and serial number with you or the department.
They don't have.
You get your LEDs from Command Light. Just open the box up. They're all going to come individually boxed. Inside one of these boxes, you'll find the LED, but also the hardware kit. So in this hardware kit, You'll have all the hardware and the components needed for the upgrade, as well as you'll have an exploded view diagram that shows how all the parts go together, and a wiring schematic to show you how to wire your light tower up with your new LEDs. If you have an older tower, your LEDs will come with connectors, so they're easy to connect right onto your existing lamp tree. Next, I'd like to talk to you about what kind of tools you're going to need to do this upgrade. You're going to need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. You're going to need a small flat-bladed screwdriver. I'm going to be using my electric screwdriver for this. You'll need some wire cutters, either a utility knife or cable strippers, wire strippers, a couple of 7/16 wrenches. You can also use a ratcheting wrench with a 7/16 socket. You'll need a 1/8 Allen tool and just some regular pliers. To get started, you'll want to get your light tower in a position where it's easy to work on. We're going to start by removing the 2 covers. If your light tower does not have covers, you will get a new upper cover in your kit. You will need to install the new cover. You'll need a number 25 drill bit and a 1024 tap to drill and tap the holes for the cover. So once we get our covers off, the next thing we're going to want to do is remove all of our lamp wires up here. At this point, you'll want to make sure that there is no power going to your tower, so there's no accidents with the electrical, and this can't shock you as you're in there. Pull all the wires apart that are twisted together. And then we're ready to start removing all the lamps. Next step is to start removing your lamps. You'll want to start from the top and work down. Pull your wire out of the tower, leaving the grommet inside the lamp tree. Go ahead and take the other upper lamp off the same way we took the first one off. So before we can take the middle bank off, we'll have to remove the nest plunger. Next, we'll remove the middle bank lamps the same way. Next, we'll pull off the backlight lamps. If you don't have a backlight on your tower, the lower bank lamps will come off exactly the same as the upper and middle banks. We'll have to loosen the set screws. There's 2 set screws in each lamp. Once you get your backlight lamps off, if you have backlight on your light tower, you'll want to remove the set screws that came on your backlight brackets, as well as the piece of key stock on those backlight brackets. These parts will be needed on the Helios brackets. Take those over to our new Helios LED. It comes with identical brackets on it. Put the piece of key stock in the keyway. Make sure it's sitting in there nice and flat. And just run your set screws down a couple threads to get those ready to install onto the backlight shaft. First, we'll start with the upper right-hand LED. We have to install this new nest bracket for the LEDs. This is the only lamp that will take these flathead Phillips screws. Next, we'll install our top left-hand LED. This is going to be installed with hex head bolts instead of the flathead Phillips screws. So once we get our top bank of LEDs on, the next thing that we're going to do is run our wire in through our grommet and into the lamp tree. Right now, you'll just want to cut a little bit of this excess off so you don't have to pull all of that through. Just make sure you leave a little extra just in case. Don't cut it too short. And push that cable through the grommet, making sure not to pull the grommet out of the tree. Leave just a little loop of wire behind the LED. Just like that. Next, we'll install the middle bank LEDs. These will go on exactly the same way that the top left-hand side went on with the hex head bolts. These are 1/4 20 by 3/4 hex head bolts with 1/4 inch lock washers. Screws up in the top with the nest bracket are 1/4 20 by 1 inch. Those are Phillips flathead screws. Once you get your middle bank LEDs installed, once again, see how much wire you need. Cut it. Make sure you've got some extra just in case. Don't cut it too short. And then route the wires in through your grommets. Next, we'll put the lower backlight lamps on. Make sure your piece of key stock is in the keyway there, and line that key up with the keyway on the backlight shaft. Then go ahead and just tighten your set screws. If you have a little blue Loctite, you can put some blue Loctite on these set screws, and that'll help hold those set screws in nice and tight. You won't have any wobble on your backlight lamps. Next step is to cut these wires and route these in. It's especially important on the backlight to make sure that these are long enough and make sure that as your backlight rotates around, you have enough of a loop here to make up for that. So rotate your backlight around and just make sure that there's plenty of loop there. Make sure that those wires on your backlight are long enough. Once you've got all your LEDs installed, the first step in wiring is to wire the upper bank lamps. You can go ahead and trim these down a little bit at this point. I like to trim them about here. Just run them to about the bottom of where these thin blocks are and strip them there, cut them there. And then either use a utility knife or some cable strippers and strip off this cable here. We just turned one of our Helios LEDs on. We brought in a light so you could see what we're doing here a little bit better. So first we're going to strip back both of our black wires here on our upper bank. Then we'll twist these wires together. And then these black wires will go into the top of the black thin block. Write that down. Give those wires a pull and make sure they're tight in there. Next, we'll strip back our white wires. We'll twist those together. And these are the white wires from the upper bank lights. These will go into the top of the white DIN block. At this point, we'll just leave the green wires off to the side and we'll put those in at the very end. The next step is to do the middle bank lights. They're about the right length. You could cut them maybe a little shorter. It's always great to leave a little extra just in case you have to come in and do any work on this wiring. You'll have a little extra wire to do what you need to do there. So we're going to wire the middle bank the same way. I'm going to go ahead and strip both my white and my black wires ahead of time before I route the wires up to the top. From the middle bank, our black wires go into the top of the red DIN block. Give them a tug, make sure they don't pop out. Then we'll twist our white wires together. These are our neutrals. From the middle bank, the white wires will go into the top of the gray DIN block. And once again, we'll leave our green wires for the very end. So next, we'll check the length on our backlight wires. They're also about right. I've got them cut to about the right length. We'll go ahead and strip those. We'll go ahead and strip back all of our black wires. Make sure as you're stripping them long enough that when you twist them together, that they'll still be long enough for the DIN block to bite down on this wire. Route these wires up. And the blacks will go together. The black wires from the lower bank or the back bank will go into the top of the blue DIN block. Twist the white wires together. White wires from lower bank will go into the top of the yellow DIN block. Now that we've got all our wires up here, all these green wires, all the green wires from the left side, in the left green DIN block, all the green wires from the right side will go into the right green DIN block. We'll have to strip these a little bit longer than the other wires as we're twisting 3 wires together. These left side greens will go into the left DIN block. These are all the grounds for our LEDs. All the green wires from the right side LEDs will go into the right green DIN block. this point, if you have a zip tie, you could zip tie all these wires up together and help keep it a little bit neat. You need to work on this. After we get the LEDs all wired in, the next step will be to replace this top cover here. In addition to the cover, we'll be adding this white nylon nest pad that comes with your Helios kit. This will line up exactly with the holes that are on this top cover. Last step will be to add this nest plunger onto this nest bracket that we've just added. You'll have a 1/4-20 hex nut that will go on the back side. You'll want to run this nest plunger as far in as possible, so it's actually nice and snug up against the front of this LED. And then you'll want to make sure this nut on the back is nice and tight, so the nest plunger will not move. At this point, all your LEDs are on, your nest plunger is on, everything's wired, your covers are on, and we're ready to test the light power, see how it works.
So as you can see, it's quite easy to upgrade. Within probably half an hour to 45 minutes, you can convert any quartz tower over to an LED. To get it quickly, if you have any issue, we've included these 3 slides. You will get a full download of this entire class here, as well as these slides. What it is it basically just gives you the different terminology of the different components of our 3 different light towers. On the left would be the command light, the center is the night light, and on the right would be the shadow RTB. That way, you know, we've called different components different things over the time. I get a lot of thingamajigs or whatchamacallits that have been broken. This will at least let you tell you, you know, I need a stabilizer, I need a rotation motor, I need an upper actuator, electric desk cover, whatever. So anyway, this is very helpful for us knowing exactly. Another thing that will help you a lot too, these are our control wires. Not only are we giving you the color of them, but we give you the function of that and also the voltage they carry when they're active. So by using the supply 3 wires that we talked about earlier, the black, red, and red, black, you can jumper any of the motion things. You just got to be careful never to touch any of them that you're carrying a ground or you'll cause a short. But I find this very handy when I'm up on the truck working on a tower. I can manually maneuver the light around once I have it above safety limit and position it for me to have more ease of access to whatever I'm working on. The last thing, and probably most critical for us here, are the serial numbers off the tower. We live and die by these. We can have the correct wire schematics, parts breakdown, everything. So to save a second call or a third call, if you can get that serial number ahead, it'll help. The diagrams just basically show where they're located on the 4 lights, the command, night, shadow, RT, and then the straight shadow. Older units, they were stamped in the bases of them, not on the feet or in between the castings. The newer ones are on a serial tag, as close to in power on the tower as possible. Again, that will save you a lot of time.
What we have here, we want to be able to show you something that we've created on our website. It is a parts store, online parts store that you can go to look up some of your parts. You can feel free to order there, or you can feel free to get more information on that part and send it to your local dealer if you're working through a local dealer. This is something that we're continually adding more parts to it. So stay tuned for that if you do get accustomed to using this feature on our website.
And we'd also like to go into the command line. All of our doors carry industry warranty on them. We on the left side there, we've actually listed what our actual warranty is on the towers. We also have a couple of forms online. This will save a lot of time, basically getting a repair going, getting a repair done. And along with the parts that are covered under the 5-year warranty, we do cover the labor on that. We also do cover travel time. Travel time is half your normal shop rate. And what you'll do is go in and you'll enter the pertinent stuff under the diagnosis form. That will allow us to give you a work authorization number, also give us all your contact information, and we can get you parts ahead of time before you go in to actually do this. I do like to have somebody at the tower give me an initial call to narrow down what we're looking for, or if they need parts, we can get them up there before we have to actually send a tech in if needed. A lot of times the departments themselves can fix them if it's a minor sensor or adjustment or a switch or something like that to be replaced. Once you've got the repair completed, the tower's up and running 100%. If you go into the completed repair form, fill that out and submit it along with the work authorization. That's basically our precursor to your invoice. It will help us get you reimbursed for the time and the travel to fix the light towers.
So we want to get you accustomed to the technical support and the division managers and invoicing personnel, as well as the sales staff. So here, Kevin and I, Kevin is the assembly manager and technical support, as well as Casey that you saw on videos. He's in charge of our parts online department, as well as the assembly supervisor, and will assist with technical assistance as well. Moving over to Mike Anderson is our division manager and invoicing specialist, Heather. And then my ugly face that covers the west part of Canada. And then Dana, he's much prettier than I am. He will handle the East Coast or East part of Canada for you. So feel free to reach out to any one of us. We want to now take it and open it up to question and answers. We will address a few questions that we have been seeing quite frequently come up through emails or text to the sales staff or technical calls that we take on a regular basis. So what we'll do is start with auto park operation and troubleshooting that, and we'll open it up for questions and answers.
These were actually submitted by a couple when you guys registered for this class. You were able to submit if you had any questions or issue. The first one we were after is just the basic auto park sequence. So night and a command light, very similar. A command light's basically just twice the size of the night. We've got the slim light up here. So today, this one does not have a backlight capability on it, basically because all the lights are running vertical instead of horizontal. So I'll go ahead and power this tower up. Again, pressing both right and left on the hand controller will energize my controller. The night light, you'll go ahead and bring your lower stage up. Excuse me if this is loud. Then you can raise the upper stage and then rotate off center. All of our lights rotate in clockwise to find the center. So if it's over to the sign here, it would go clear around to 360 to find that. On an auto park sequence, what we're going to be looking for is when you initially hit it, it will be rotating, looking for center. I will also at the same time start the backlights if it has that. panning, trying to find a backlight home sensor. So when the backlights flush up, it'll activate a switch up there. The rotation will come around, and underneath the nightlight here, there's a little cam under here and a switch. That is what we pick up for center. So as you can see down here on this holster, when that center switch is activated, your green center light comes on. Once both of those are acquired, it will begin retraction of the lower actuator. This will bring your lower stage down until it hits what we call our down limit switch. That's switch is kind of hidden up this box here. It's activated by a plunger, sticks down out of the bottom there. There's a white pad down in the base that contacts. That lets it know the lower stage is down. It will shut off that lower actuator retraction, and then the lamp tree will come down. It will come down until it activates all of them. Just a push button. A powered sensor down here at the end. So I will go ahead and do this, as I do apologize.
Before Kevin lowers that down, some of you guys may not know, but there's a tube on the opposite side of this light tower that you may not see, depending on the location that it's installed on the truck. If you guys are getting a new truck and getting it to your fire department, there's the operations manual. There's little screwdrivers in here that you can do everything with the tower. The attachment piece that we talked about in lowering the tower manually, all in here. Sometimes that does not get delivered with the tower to the end user, the customer. If you don't get it, it's always good to look inside here. Let us know. We'll get you taken care of with another one.
Okay, again, I'll go ahead and do this. I'm not sure how loud this is going to be, as this is kind of our first test run, so I apologize if this is loud. But this will go through an auto park sequence. My controller has timed out, so I had to reactivate that again. So I'll hit auto park. At any time during the auto park, by hitting the little red stop sign with the hand on it, you will be able to shut down that auto park sequence. So again, it will rotate towards center until it picks that up, bring lower stage down until it activates that down limit switch, and then bring down nest until it activates that. The red light will go out on your holster. Again, green is showing this tower is powered up, ready to go. Once that goes out, after the cap drains down, it will the green light will go out on it. That shows that the tower is either inactive or you're not getting power to it. The second question we were asked was in our new controllers, our version 3 holster boxes, we are requiring what we call VBAT and CBAT power. VBAT is a vehicle battery power, also is a vehicle ground required in here. CBAT is basically power from the tower, or command light power. These, we have to use a little bit of vehicle power to keep our powered sensors active. If the generator were to be shut down prior to the light getting down, without that battery power, it would basically not be giving you an elevated warning off of that sensor. So that is why we require very minimal draw on it. It's basically one sensor into the circuit board and out to your elevated warning. That's why these two cannot be flipped on that. It's solely on the circuit board that VBAT powers that sensor up and also carries on that elevated warning. We do diode jumper these to back each other up on some of them if we run into an issue where either the truck voltage drops due to a bunch of other components being turned on, or for some other reason, on an AC tower, if the generator is not quite producing enough to give us enough to get 12 volts out of our transformer. So we back these up, and that's kind of almost a redundant, but we diode protect them for that reason. So basically, if one drops low, the other one should be giving enough to keep that sensor. But the main thing we don't want is somebody going down the road with the tower up, not knowing that that tower is up. That leads to all kinds of bad things. So anyway, we'll open that up. The other questions you people may have had, if you think of something after this class is over, we're always here. You can either submit them in an email, go to our website, or always give us a call. We're happy to help any way we can. Does anyone have any questions?
David, unmute. Whoever has questions.
Any of you guys got any questions?
So if you guys are any questions, what we'll need you to do is unmute yourself and try to just chime in real quick, and people can kind of coordinate it from there so that we can take one question at a time.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Ron Tuma. You guys hear me there okay?
Yeah, Ron,
Yes.
how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm running into a problem with KL 450. When it goes into auto park, it's lowering the mast, and it seems to bounce and knock the centering sensor out of position, and it stops the auto park sequence. Easy adjustment for that?
Yeah, does your light tower have a backlight on it?
No.
Okay, where the lower lamps pivot back. That is primarily caused by the belt being too loose in there. There is a little there. They're very tough Kevlar belt in this midsection here, but they do tend to have a little bit of initial stretch. Once we retighten that, I have not seen it reoccur again. So we have a video on how to tighten that belt on there, or if you wanted to, give me a call after the class or whatever, I'll be happy to walk you through that. But once we get that tightened up, basically it's just enough that bounce that's causing this lamp tree to shift a little bit and losing contact with that center switch.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Anyone else?
I had a similar question.
Yeah.
Just for the rotational tree. So when it's trying to find center of doing its 360, sometimes it'll over rotate.
Okay.
Is that similar adjustment?
We usually see that on the heavier trees, and usually when this lamp is what we call the street light position, just the centrifugal force or the weight of that can cause that. We also see it if they're on a very or on a steep slope or a pitch. Just the gravity helping do that will cause it to overswing. What we can do with that is we can adjust your cam a little bit. So basically it is activating a little sooner than the point of that cam. We can also adjust that center switch out just a little bit more, so it's traveling the cam. That does make the center a little wider on it, so you may get a little bit of a final dog hitting right or left. But also with that, we do have a video on our website of how to adjust that center, and also I'm always willing to walk somebody through that if you're at the tower to get that dialed in for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Anyone else?
So if there's no other questions, I don't want to cut you off early, but like Kevin said, there is some technical videos on our website that you can go look at for our CL series, KL series, and SL series. And most of the technical questions should be able to be handled through there. If not, feel free to contact Kevin or myself, and we'd be happy to assist you on that. Also, we can FaceTime call if you have the capability of handling FaceTime call. That's effective for our technical support here at factory, or me out in the field, pulling over on the side of the road or something like that to assist you guys in getting your tower up and going again. So if there's no other questions, I'll open it back up again. But we want to thank you for joining this virtual EVT class. It's our first one. Thanks for bearing through the technical difficulties that we had. We'll fine tune it for the next one, and we look forward to doing this again in the future.
Did anybody have anything else?
Thanks
Again, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was great.
No problem. And if you guys give me a heads up too, if you're going to a tower, this helps me tremendously. Saying, I'll be at this tower in an hour. Here's the serial number. What I can do is I have my work cell on me. I dedicate that phone to nothing but guys that know are in the field repairing. I'll take any call if I don't have anything at the end. But that way I can get to you immediately when you call. I'll be watching for your number to come in. Like Aaron said, we can do FaceTime. We can also shoot pictures back and forth via text. Pictures worth 1,000 words, FaceTime's worth 1,000,000. So I really want to thank you guys again. Like I said, if you think of something after this is over, we're always here to support you guys. Our hours are from 7 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. So use us if you need us, and hopefully you don't. But thank you again for your support of us and Command Line.